I recently tested the resistance profiles and the settings on about 15 different leg extension machines. And the results I'm about to share with you, they might actually surprise you. Now, as a bit of background, on a leg extension machine, we're looking for a resistance profile that goes like this. It has greater resistance at the start of the range of motion. And then as you get towards the top of the range where we're getting weaker, we want that resistance to drop off and reduce for us. Where we have a profile like this, it's actually better matching our body's natural ability to produce torque throughout the range of motion. Now, in terms of testing each machine, what I did was I used a dynamometer to test resistance at different points in the range of motion. But then I also did this on feel. And so I did multiple sets with different weights because I just wanted to check how does it actually feel and does that line up with the numbers on the dynamometer when I'm testing it. So let's get into it. This first category we've got here, I'm just going to call it scrap metal. These ones here, if your gym has one of these, you kindly just tell the owner to just trade it in, put it away for scrap metal, get some cash for it because they're really not nice. We've got this StarTrac machine. This was the first one I actually had in a gym where I used to work at. They had the StarTrac machine. And honestly, it's just a really poor resistance profile on this one. It gets very hard as you get towards the end of the range. And it's a really easy way to beat up your patellofemoral joint. The next tier, we've got looks can be deceiving. The first one we've got here is this old school Nautilus piece. Now, honestly, I love the look of this machine. I love their old school stuff. I went to a gym with a whole heap of old school Nautilus machines and I had a really good time in there. But honestly, this leg extension, it's just not ideal. Resistance goes up as we're getting towards our weaker position and it just does not feel nice on the patellofemoral joint. And in general, it's going to encourage you to swing that weight around. Now, I believe these ones were actually produced back when Nautilus was of the view that muscles were strongest in their fully contracted short position. But we've since learned it's not always the case, especially not in a knee extension exercise. I'm going to put this MaxPump one in this tier here as well. I tested the resistance on this one and it also went up considerably through the range. You'll be able to see the numbers I put on the screen right there now. And it just does not feel nice at all, this one. And it looks like it's kind of a copy almost of that Nautilus one that I showed you just there. Kind of similar in a way, similar kind of layout on it. And yeah, resistance profile goes in the opposite direction to what we're looking for. Next here, brand name does not always mean it's good. We've got this Atlantis piece here. I used this just the other day actually. And I know it's Atlantis, we like a lot of their pieces, but this one just ain't nice. I measured the profile on it. Here's the numbers. I had 20 kilos on the weight stack. It was 14 kilos at the bottom, and then it increased all the way up to 22 kilos at the top of the range. So it did increase considerably. The other thing that's not enjoyable on this one is it's got that moving pad down the bottom, and you can't lock it into position. So it just doesn't feel nice to use. It would be nice if you could just lock that in like you can on other leg extension machines. The other one I'm going to put on this tier is the hammer strength one. I've used this many times. It's at the gym, with the world gym that I go to. And it has a slightly better profile on it, but it's still going in the wrong direction. It's still increasing as we go through the range, which we don't want. You can feel it when you use it, and I did measure it. I'll put the numbers on the screen so you can see what it was throughout the range. And the seat, the pad, everything else is quite nice. The adjustability is decent, just the profile is not quite right on this one. So moving up in the tiers, next one we've got is the NewTech machine. Man, this one just has some awesome adjustability on it. I love that you can change angles on it. You can change a lot of the settings, which is really nice. Downside is that resistance profile just isn't quite right. Now, I had 10 kilograms on the stack. It was 10 kilograms at the bottom. And then at the top, it went all the way up to 14. So it increased 4 kilos. I did a few other sets, heavier sets, just to check this. And I did notice that resistance went up as I went through the range, as I got to the short end. The adjustability is really cool, but the profile just lets it down slightly, I'd say. Next tier, hated on brands, they can sometimes do some things okay. Now we've got the Gym 80 Dual leg extension, leg curl here, and we've got the Technogym one here. Now I know I am ranking these above some very well-reputed brands, and I know that's criminal, but I'm just judging the machine on its merits. What's the resistance profile like? What's the adjustability like? What are the angles like, etc.? And these ones come out slightly on top of the ones that I've looked at previously. Now, the resistance profile in Gym 80, I had 30 kilograms on the stack and it started at 20 kilograms at the bottom. and went down to 17 kilograms at the top. So it did reduce a little bit as I went through the range. Downside of this one is that input leg pad is very uncomfortable. It's very harsh on the shins and doesn't feel very nice. Now, just as an aside note, if you use that one for the leg curl, it goes the opposite direction. So you'll end up having a profile on the seated leg curl, which is not great. Leg extension, fine. Leg curl, not good on the Gym 80 dual leg extension leg curl. The Technogym, it does feel really smooth to use. It gives you a very slight drop off at the short end of the range. I've done a separate video on that in my shorts. You can check that one out if you're curious, but it's a lot better than you expect. It's the Technogym selection range. Now, just as an aside, there are a lot of different Technogym leg extensions that are out there. This is the specific selection range. So there may be other ones that don't feel as nice as this one, but this one is actually not too bad when it comes to leg extensions. One downside of this Technogym one is you can't get a whole lot of range at the length and end. It doesn't let you put it in as far. So you might need to get one of those Hustler lifting pads, attach that on, give yourself a little bit of extra range. And that might also increase drop off at the short end if you're going to use one of those. Before we get into the top tier leg extensions, I'm just going to share with you a couple of thoughts on some other ones that I used, but I didn't test the profiles of. So I wasn't confident to put them on these tiers, but just some thoughts on a couple of other leg extension machines. Next up, we've got the Cybex VR2 and the Hoist. I really enjoyed both these leg extensions. Cybex one drops off a little bit as you get towards the short end of the range. The adjustable pad is really nice. You can go up higher on the leg, which is kind of cool. And it has a lot of padding on it. So I didn't feel any discomfort when I used that, which was cool. The Hoist one also has a really nice drop off in resistance in it. It's not a huge drop off, but it does drop off a little bit, which is cool. I'll put the numbers on the screen so you can have a look at them here. And yeah, I recommend trying out that Hoist one if you haven't used it before, because it is actually quite enjoyable to use. And just a quick note on this VR2 leg extension. I think one of the reasons it's quite popular is people have actually modified that machine because the cam is actually one that you can put things under to actually change the resistance profile in the exercise. And I've used modified ones that were probably the best leg extension I've ever used in my life. The level of drop off was perfect, really tough at the start, dropped off nicely at the end. So modified ones can be really good. This one isn't modified, so I can't put it at the top because it just doesn't drop off as much as one that someone has gone in and modified. Now, these two Prime machines and the Keiser machine, they're heading up towards the top tier for me. They all have really nice resistance profiles on them. We'll look at the Prime ones first. So the pin-loaded one and the plate-loaded one both provide a nice drop-off in resistance. With the pin-loaded one, I had 22.7 kilos on the stack. It was 23 kilograms at the bottom and reduced down to 17 kilograms at the top, which was cool. And on the plate-loaded one, 20 kilos on the stack, and it had the exact same amount of drop-off. It started at 23 and went down to 17 kilos. So they've actually probably looked at this in a fair bit of detail and spent some time on it, which is really cool. An important note on these machines, you can get more drop-off if you put the input pad as close as you can. So as much knee flexion as you can possibly get into, that will actually let you get more drop-off in the exercise. So that's something to consider with this. And the other thing is, with the plate-loaded version, you're going to be dealing with some increased inertial effects on that one because that plate has that rotational inertia around that axis. So the starts and stops won't be as smooth on the plate-loaded version as they are on the pin-loaded version. So I think if I had to choose between them, I would probably take the pin-loaded version here. The Keiser leg extension, I've used in my mate Shane's studio many times before, and I really enjoy it. We did some resistance testing on this one. Started off at 10. The starting resistance was 10. At the bottom, it was 14. The middle, went up to 20. And then at the top, it went all the way back down to 10. So significant drop off from the middle of the range to the top of the range. If you've used the Keiser one, I find it really enjoyable. You've probably enjoyed it yourself. And you don't have the same inertial effects as you do on other machines because that air pressure actually dampens the inertial effects you're going to feel in the exercise. So Keiser one is a really enjoyable leg extension. And at the top of the tiers, we've got this old school gem. This MedX machine, it was probably built in the 80s or 90s. And I find it's still superior to any unmodified leg extension machine that I've come across. Has a really massive drop off in resistance as you go from the bottom of the range all the way up to the top. It's hard at the bottom and lighter at the top. I've put some numbers I did from testing on the screen so you can take a look at those. I had 27 kilos on the stack. Start of the range, it was around 18. Middle, it went down to 15. And then at the end, it went all the way down to around between 7 and 9 kilograms. So massive drop off on that one. Is it too much drop off? For me, based on feel and use over time, I think it's perfect. Some people might think that's too much. My knees are pretty beat up from playing a lot of sport over the years and doing a lot of exercise. And it's one of the few leg extension machines that they can actually tolerate and feel good after a session. And to me, it's pretty amazing that it's built so long ago and I haven't come across a leg extension that I've probably preferred to that one other than machines that have been modified by someone. So here's the full list for you. There's some machines, as you can see, that are from reputable brands that just don't quite cut it. And then other machines on this list from brands people like to hate on, but they're actually not as bad as you might think. From doing this exercise, what's become clear to me is there's actually not that many leg extension machines out there that have a nice resistance profile on them. And in fact, the majority have a resistance profile that goes the opposite direction to what we want in the exercise. Obviously, there's many other leg extensions that I haven't used before. If you've come across some that you really enjoy that have a nice profile on them, please let me know in the comments because I'd be keen to check them out. And as always, if you've got any questions or comments, put them below and I'll get back to you really soon on those.